Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, whatever time of day it is where you live. It's your buddy Choppadong. I'm coming at you with a quick tip video today, 5 to 10 minutes on NHL DFS stacking. Something that I get a lot of questions by newer people to the sport, and I want to show you why it's a little bit different than any other sport. But most importantly, we need to know this stuff, how these players correlate with each other in hockey, because we're getting ready to roll into the baseball season. And I tell people constantly that NHL and MLB are just ugly twin sisters. The sports play very, very much the same. If you learn one, you've almost learned the other. There's just not a lot of difference between the two. When it comes to the high volatility, the stacking is key and the correlation is key. Your goalie is like your starting pitcher, and just one after the other, parlayed points, everything is really going to make a difference between the two sports. If you learn one, you've kind of learned the other. As always, follow me out on Twitter at Choppadong. Obviously, help me with the retweets for entries into April sweeps. We gave away the March sweeps winner, last week. Awesome. You guys are helping with all that stuff. Let's push this thing, make it bigger. Follow the link in the description down below. And come into dfsarmy.com, use coupon code CHOP, CHOP, for that 20% off discount. And why don't you come get some coaching today? This is the kind of stuff that we talk about, and we're handling a lot of these questions on a day in and day out basis. So you don't have to feel like you won't learn anything, I promise you, just through general conversation. I just went through a big 30-second thing on why it's okay on smaller slates to use a defenseman like a Alex Edler against Freddie Anderson last night, and why nobody else in the industry will do it, and they don't realize they deal too much with black and white rules of, well, you can't do this. No, sometimes you can. Rules are made to be broken. You just need to learn when to break them, and so that's what we were just talking about in our coaching forums just a minute ago. But got asked a question about stacking. Wanted to show you really quickly how to deal with that. Stacking, let's take this from two different vantage points. Stacking is very, very important, first of all, in hockey because you want correlated points. When a goal gets scored, oftentimes it's attached to an assist or two previously. Somebody will pass to somebody who will pass to somebody who will score. And that parlays points. If you have all three of those players, we jokingly call it a stack slam because on Fanduel, it's worth like 30-something points. It's a big deal when you get it. And one event on the night just unleashed an avalanche of points. And that's very, very important to capture as much of that as you can, or at least be in position to capture it. It's a little bit boom or bust, obviously, because if that line does nothing, then you get nothing. And so for cash games, and that's kind of where we want to take this, for cash and for GPPs, but for cash games, you maybe want to spread out. And you maybe want a piece of this offense and a piece of this offense and a piece of this offense, or a piece on smaller slates with limited options, a piece of this line and a piece of this line and a piece. So that way no one bad thing can screw you over across the board. If you, like in a GPP though, you really want to tighten up your focus and you really want to hit something and hit it really, really hard. And to do that, you have to be really, really centered on a key stack. One of my favorite things to stack is power play units. But I'll show you two ways to do kind of like a cash game type of stack or a GPP stack. In the case of Florida tonight, let's pretend you want to use Florida. Notice that all three of these guys on the top line are also on the power play. So I would just take those three guys and stack them. Done. Now I am completely correlated on the ice at all times. These three are together. Okay, so if one passes the other, who passes to the other, who scores or whatever, then I'm going to get the goal and both assists. And that's going to, and if they do it twice in a night, doesn't matter. Does Hoffman score or does Huberdeau score? It doesn't matter. If Barkov and the other guy were involved in the assists, I've got two stack slams on the night, and that is going to set me up very, very well for GPPs. It's also very boom or bust, because if the line, the second line or the third line is the one that's netting the goals, or the second power play unit nets the goals, boom. I'm toast. I got nothing. It's very possible Florida could score 3 goals tonight and I get none of them. So for cash games, to avoid that dud, it's also possible for GPPs that they score all 3 goals and I get all of them. And that's where it helps you in GPPs. But for cash games, I may want to spread my risk out a little bit. And so I may not want to focus necessarily on this. I may want to include Dadonov on this other line. He still correlates on that top power play line. So if I took Barkov, Hoffman, and Dadonov, then I've still got 2 guys here, and I've at least got one down here in another spot on the ice most of the time. So that, they overlap on the power play, so I can still get the assist, and the goal, but they don't at even strength, so I'm a little bit safer. I'm a little bit more spread out. If I wanted to, I could include a defenseman. Why defenseman? Because defensemen overlap. These two guys are not on the ice with just these three guys. Just because they're on the first defensive pairing doesn't mean they're only out there with these two. They do overlap with these guys, and they overlap with these guys too. So a player like Yandel, an offensive-minded defenseman, can get the assist on a Trocheck goal, a Brouwer goal, a Barkov goal. It doesn't matter. But he's on the power play 1-2. So if I used him with Dadonov and Hoffman, then I've got overlap on 3 spots of that power play. So if the goal happens on the power play, I've liable got a piece of it or all 3 pieces of it. But if it happens at even strength, I might have 2 pieces of it. I won't have all 3 because Yandel and Dadonov and Hoffman won't be on the ice at the same time together because Hoffman and Dadonov won't be on the ice at the same time. Do you see how I'm reading this chart? And then all we're really going to end up doing is getting at least the assist off of one, so it helps some. Okay, now another way that I can do this is if we go over here to what Pittsburgh's a good one to talk about. If you can afford it, you would run Malkin, Crosby, and then, either like a McCann or Gensel or Aston Reese and a Kessel, but you would run Crosby and Malkin together because you've got 2 big scoring punches on these top 2 lines and you overlap on the power play. You might throw them in there with a Schultz or something like that. And that's essentially all you need to know for the stacking. It gets hard when, when the 1 and the 2 are on the same line with the 1 and the 2 or whatever on the power play. It's easier to spread out and start correlating across these lines. This is an easier cash offense. This is a harder one because all of the power play 1s and power play 2s are also together on the same scoring lines. If we scroll down a little bit tonight, let's say we like the New York Rangers. Then we've got Vesey, Zibanejad, and Kreider. Maybe I take Zibanejad and go looking for another power play 1 guy. Who would that be? It's not showing. Shattenkirk. So maybe Zibanejad, Shattenkirk, Kreider. That's okay because Shattenkirk's at least going to give me access to goals that score out of here. But he's going to overlap on that power play, and he's also going to see some regular strength ice time with these top 2. If I looked over here at let's see, Detroit, New York Islanders. See, this is very concentrated. I could just run all 3 of these guys and just call the power play good. Let's scroll down to Chicago because they're one of the better examples. Chicago has Taves, Kane, Saad on the top line, Strome, DeBrincat, Cahoon on the second line, and then they've got Gustafsson here in the power play unit on the defense, right? So if I was wanting to really look at just the power play 1 for Chicago, then I could run Kane and Taves with Gustafsson. I could run Strome and DeBrincat with Gustafsson. I could run Taves and Strome, or Kane and Strome, or Taves and DeBrincat, or DeBrincat and Kane, whatever. I can run any of these 4 guys, just roll them up in a Yahtzee cup and throw them out there, and they all correlate on the power play unit. In a cash game, in a 7 over-under total, I don't mind at all running 3 dudes out in a stack. Even on an 11-game slate, I don't mind it at all. So I would take a Gustafsson, and I would take a DeBrincat and a Taves, or a Strome and a Kane, or whatever. And now I'm spread out. I've got Gustafsson that overlaps both these lines like I was showing you before, and I've got DeBrincat and Kane, or whatever, that all 3 of them then overlap on the power play. So I can get lucky and get assist, goal, or at even strength, I can at least get the goal or the assist off of these lines. Let's say Cahoon passed to Strome, who passed to DeBrincat, who scored. Yes, my Strome DeBrincat stack worked. Gustafsson wasn't involved. But if I didn't have Strome, let's say I had Kane, DeBrincat, and Gustafsson, and the Strome to Cahoon to DeBrincat goal happened, now I've only got the goal. That's fine. Or DeBrincat passes to Strome, who passes to Cahoon, who scores. Fine, I've got the assist. At least I've got that piece of that goal off of this line, this entire line. And same with the top line. If Kane scores from Saad and Taves, and I don't have the other 2, I've just got Kane. Fine. So I've got a big piece of offense here with either of these 2 guys, a big piece of offense here with either of these 2 guys, and I can run them together. I can run Gustafsson, DeBrincat, Strome, or Gustafsson, Kane, Taves. And that's going to concentrate that a little bit tighter, and it's going to be a little bit more boom or bust because those 2 guys are on the ice at even strength and the power, they're on the ice all the time together. If I wanted to spread it out for ultimate safety, I would make sure I took Kane or Taves, and then paired them with Strome or DeBrincat. And I would have one guy here and one of these two guys here with the defenseman Gustafsson. And now I've spread out as safely as I possibly can. If Chicago goes and scores, 3 goals or 4 goals like they're implied to tonight, I've probably got a couple off this line. I've probably got a couple off this line. I'm just hoping these guys don't do the scoring. And let's say they get 1 goal and then 3 goals get chopped up here, 2 from this line and 1 from this line. Fine. I've probably got pieces of it. And I might have double dip pieces of it with the defender and Gustafsson. That's how the stacking thing works. That's how we need to correlate. So I might look at one of those types of stacks for Chicago, and then I might look over here at Buffalo in a GPP and just go Skinner, Reichert, Eichel, and call it a day. Or, Skinner, Eichel, or Reiner, because he's cheaper, Reiner, Skinner, and then Dalen, because on the power play one, boom, I'm completely correlated. And I've game stacked this thing that's really tight on one side and a little bit loose on the other side. It's got a little bit of a floor for Chicago. It's very, very risky on the Buffalo side. I could also take these 3 guys and take Skinner here, Levo here, go back up here to, New York and take Brock Nelson, and then come over here to Detroit, take Mantha, and then take Shattenkirk out of New York, whatever the hell I want to do, but I've got one stack and then surround it with one-offs. I can go stack, one-offs, or all one-offs. I can use little 2-man mini stacks, Taves, DeBrincat, and then, Crosby and Schultz. And now I've got 2 solid pieces of Chicago and Pittsburgh. I can go find another offense tonight, like a Sabres offense, and go Eichel, Reiner, done, or Dalen, Reiner, done. Now I've got 2, 2, 2. I've got big pieces of 3 offenses that are set to go off tonight. One of these offenses is probably going to go off, and one of them might not. If I happen to be completely concentrated in the one that doesn't, I'm screwed. But in cash games, if I'm only lightly exposed to all of the big offenses tonight, I've probably got a fighting chance. That, in essence, is stacking for NHL DFS. It's going to work the same for baseball in that we're going to look for hitters inside the offense. Do I go 1, 2, 3? Do I go 3, 4, 5? Do I go 7, 8, 9? Do I go 1, 3, 7? Who the hell cares? They're going to be tightly correlated if you stick with the 1, 2, 3 or the 2, 3, 4. If they're in succession, you're going to be as tightly correlated as you can be. But they're all still correlated if if you go 1, 3, 7. Because if the 7 gets on base in baseball and the 8 and the 9 make outs, guess who comes up to bat? The 1. And if he makes an out, then you're only 1 batter away from the 3 who can then knock them in. You get 3 outs in an inning. If you draw some walks, you get some little chinky, base hits and whatever else, and some people aren't making out, you still got a chance for a couple of outs to get a couple of spots through the lineup. So even though they're loosely correlated, the 3 and the 7 are correlated in baseball. It is a loose stack. It's not as powerful maybe as the 3-4. It's also not as boom or bust because many nights the bottom half of the lineup does all of the scoring and the top half of the lineup doesn't do much. And at least you got a piece of it. And if you're lucky, one of your guys is on base when the other guy does the damage. It's the same thing in hockey. Some nights the top line does the scoring. Some nights the second line does the scoring. Some nights it comes from the third or the fourth line. We want to make sure that we've got pieces of those goals when they do happen. In cash, we want to make sure we got small pieces of it. In tournaments, we want to make sure we got it all. There's just so many ways to stack in NHL. It's a good thing to talk about. Come on inside DFS Army. We'll talk even more about it. We'll show you maybe where we're going. Are we targeting power play here? Are we targeting top scoring line here? Are we targeting a third line here? Whatever. It varies from night to night depending on the slate. But at least now you know how to read this type of screen and you can look and see at how to correlate these lines yourselves, what the line 1 and what the PP1 and stuff means. So come on inside if you need more details. Choppadong here. Love to help talk to you about NHL. Follow the link in the description down there at the bottom, dfsarmy.com. Use coupon code CHOP, 20% off. And I will see you on the inside. Take care.